This is the Swarm and Shoot football show with me, Manny Matsakis, the head football coach at Defiance College. We feature Defiance College football and everything that influences our program. This show is brought to you by our friends at Big Beat Coffee right across campus on North Clinton Street. I'm actually having a cup right now, so everybody check it out on YouTube, and you can see the video of the cup and how delicious this beverage is. Get the finest coffee beverages, even tea, in Defiance, as well as great pastries, breakfast sandwiches to start your day off, and you can even get a pick-me-up like a lot of our coaching staff does in the afternoon. I'd also like to bring on board the maker of this fine apparel right here, and not just Nike, but we're talking about BSN Sports, all right? I'd like to bring on board our latest sponsor, BSN Sports, and Rob Held and his sales team are the professionals you need to get in touch with for all your sporting goods and apparel needs in Ohio. Not only do they work with high school and college sports teams, they also deliver outstanding apparel to businesses so they can brand themselves in a first-class manner. This episode is number 37. Our special guest today is Jeremy Taylor, our defensive line coach here at Defiance College. Today's topic is regarding the development of our defensive linemen. You know, I've heard defensive linemen referred to as the disruptors of the defense. The position in and of itself can be played on an island or in support of other guys in the unit and how they work together. The positions we're going to talk about today are the defensive tackles and the ends. Coach Taylor, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. Always excited to talk ball.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, most of the day, this time of year, you're teaching classes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that something else? Yeah, so I think as we look at this group you've got, and you have a really good group coming back, returning,
Absolutely.
right? And I think as we go into spring ball, and then more importantly, after that, training camp. All right, when you get a group of these linemen in, how do you differentiate between where you put them on the defensive line?
Okay. The real simple answer is you want the wider guys and the interior playing tackle or nose, and you're kind of your longer, taller guys playing end. But I kind of go a little further than that. And really, what I'm looking for in a defensive tackle, most important thing is someone that can beat the double team.
Okay.
Someone that can withstand having 200-300-pound bodies on them every play of the game. Someone in the defensive tackles and the nose tackles, they're more like the nasty guys. The guys that kind of have that nasty attitude who don't mind just getting in the trenches. Looking at defensive end, the biggest thing that I look for is kind of the more athletic person. Sometimes we'll need them to be able to go out in space. We need someone that can set the edge of the defense. And then really I look for someone that has good hips, that can bend, that can lean and bend. So
makes sense. You know, the thing is, as you're putting all this together and you get these, you're going to have a few new guys in training camp, so you're going to have to differentiate between these guys and put them in there, because sometimes it's like as you're developing these guys, there's some key skills you're developing on the front end. They don't always come in with those skills out of high school, certainly. So what are the things you're working on?
Number one is stance. We definitely – the stance – if you have a bad stance, you're going to have a bad if you have a bad stance, you're going to have a bad play. Yeah. Like your stance affects your get off. Your stance affects how you put your hand placement. So that's something that we work every day, and so we'll try to build our stance from the ground up. Oftentimes, and we want to make sure that our players have a consistent stance, something that's comfortable for them. But in high school, a lot of times they're not teaching stance. They just say, "Hey, go get in the 3-point stance and go out there, or get in the 4-point stance." So stance, and then we focus heavily on what we call stimulus and response. So like understanding, as a defensive lineman, if I get a base block, what am I going to respond to? How am I going to respond to it? If I get a down block, what am I going to do? And so that's really the way we kind of start the process. Is we start from the ground up, assuming that this is their first time playing defensive line.
Gotcha. Yeah. So when you look at the position itself, you've got guys in it that are really good run stoppers.
Okay.
You see these guys. What are the best ways for you to develop that run stopper? Are there certain drills you do? What is it you're trying to do to basically do their role as a run stopper?
Well, first of all, I mean, with everything in our defense, it starts with the mind and making sure that they understand that what they see on the field is not the first time they see it on Saturday.
Sure. Okay.
So, we definitely spend a lot of time in the classroom just developing, if I get a down block or I get a base block or I get reached, what am I doing? So that's the number one thing. Make sure they have it mentally. The second thing, primarily I think the best drill for developing and stopping run stoppers, and something that we do every day in practice, is we do pods, which is, basically you have two players simulating an offensive lineman. You have one player that's a defensive lineman, and then I, as a coach, tell them what type of block they're going to see. And I want to see them get in there and fit, and I can correct hand placement there. I can correct their steps. I can correct all that stuff. So I think pods is something that is definitely to me, that's one of the best run stopping.
Yeah, I can see that. I've watched that drill a few times, and it's you can see how young guys can develop when you work in the pods. How's about this year you had Damon Thomas, right? He comes in, and it's interesting. He's not a big guy, but he's an all-conference player as a freshman at defensive end.
Absolutely.
And fantastic pass rusher. Just coming right out of the gate. But you developed him during the season, and you could just see the progress he was making. How about drills and skills? What are you doing with those guys to help them become better pass rushers?
Well, one of the things that, like, my philosophy on pass rush is that oftentimes young high school, city league football players, they rely only on a pass rush. They say, I'm just going to bull rush. I'm just going to run past the guy and run through him. And so the way my philosophy is, I want to give defensive linemen a bunch of tools in their toolbox to be able to become successful pass rushers. So we have a pass rush progression that we teach where, we're teaching multiple different ways of pass rushing, and I particularly tell them don't use the bull rush initially.
Okay.
So that is, once again, that's in the classroom that we spend a lot of these things progressing and installing different types of pass rush techniques, just simply to give them a new tools in their tool belt. Primarily the two pass rush drills that I think are the best to help develop pass rushing, we like to run the hoop. Simply because as a pass rusher, you've got to be able to bend and lean.
Explain running the hoop for people out there. It's just a term for you and I. But, yeah.
Well, running the hoop is imagine a large hula hoop on the ground, a very large one, probably 8 feet by diameter. And the idea is that a player will start at one end of the hoop, get out of his stance, run and lean as they run around the circumference of the hoop, and then finish on a dummy with a pass rush move. The reason why you want to do that is it teaches defensive linemen to bend their hips and to be able to lean on the inside and on the edges of their foot so they can stay close to the offensive lineman and not allow that offensive lineman to create separation and you can run past them. So running the hoop is, I think, probably one of the best.
Great drill. Yeah.
And then second, another thing that we do multiple times a week is we do a pass rush gauntlet, which is with pop-up dummies. And basically the idea is to get these players to be able to flip their hips as they strike. One of the things I always tell people is when if you were in a bar fight and you were getting ready to punch somebody, you're not just going to punch flat-footed and stand there with your arms and just punch. Instead, that punch is going to come from your power pack, your butt, and your hips, and you're going to be able to turn those hips. And so we set a series of pop-up dummies and have the players go through and weave and bob through multiple different iterations of that, simply to get their hips going and get them in time with flipping their hips and throwing their hands so they can get the most power when they're pass rushing. So those are running the hoop and pass rush gauntlet, two great drills.
Yeah, and you know, as you say that, you know, what comes to mind, a lot of guys when they first come into college ball, what they think that they need all these different things. I get you got these skills you want to develop and so forth, but it's like I remember, you know, once upon a time reading a book by John Wooden, and it was, you know, he made a statement in there. He said, repetition is the mother of skill. And it's like, you don't need a whole bunch of things. You just need to do what you do well.
Absolutely. And all of these skills, they build on top of each other.
Yeah.
So, like, if you can flip your hips in the pass rush gauntlet, you're going to be better at doing an edge rush. You're going to be better at doing a speed rush. You know, even the stuff that we do in pods, just the intentional hand placement of things, that is going to make you be a better pass rusher. So it's all basic skills, you know, hips, hands, feet, knees.
Yeah, and it's really what it is, and you play with proper angles.
Absolutely.
And you have a really good opportunity to be the disruptor of the defense, which is really what, you know, gets the beginning of the podcast. It's like great D-lines make offenses change.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're talking about, disruption. A team comes in and, hey, we're running the power. We're running the zone play. Well, guess what? We can't against these guys.
Absolutely.
So you've disrupted a pattern of the offense, and now they've got to go into their toolkit and find out, oh, boy, we better start doing something else.
Absolutely. I mean, I tell our guys every time they run the ball, if they choose to run power, they choose to run zone, take it as a personal insult to you. Because that means
I've heard that.
They think they can beat you. You know, my goal is I would love it if we can go an entire game where Coach Johnson doesn't have to call a blitz. You know, because if we can get pressure with four men, then that completely, I mean, I'm not an offensive guy, but I would think if you got 4 men pressure and you got 7 men deep, that kind of takes away your game plan a little bit.
There's no question. Yeah, and that's where we're headed to, right?
Absolutely.
That's how we're going to make this happen. Now, for some of these recruits out there and guys that are, you know, will be coming in August, what can a defensive lineman do on his own right now before you get a hold of him in training camp? What can he do to improve?
Well, I mean, I think number one, get in shape.
Yeah.
Like, be in shape, you know, be in the weight room, run, come to camp in shape, so that, you know, the first day that we run bags, you're not dying. That's the number one thing. But I think probably the second big thing that a player can do is simply just, you know, practice getting in stance and starts. You know, getting off the ball is the number one thing that a defensive lineman needs to be able to do. So go out in your backyard, get in a 3-point stance. You know, like shoot me an email and send me a video of your 3-point stance. And I mean, make sure you're in a proper 3-point stance, and then just, you know, get off. Take 3 steps. Shoot your hands. Do that in your backyard 5-10 times a night, and you'll be surprised that as you begin to build that muscle memory, you know, you will come in and you'll be a lot better. Practice staying low, you know, those kind of things. So I think those are the big things that a defensive lineman can do. Also, too, you know, watch film of great defensive linemen.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, just watch and see what, you know, some of these great defensive linemen out there are doing, and that will make you become a better player.
Oh, yeah. And you know, sometimes it's interesting. I see a lot of positions, they try to do that. And the guys I've noticed that have the most success with watching the great ones do it are the ones that are, crazy as it sounds, they're honest with themselves regarding their body type. And they say, oh, okay, I'm a tall, rangy guy, or I'm a short, powerful guy, you know, or if you're a super back or something, you know, I'm built like, you know, Barry Sanders, or I'm built like, you know, the Nigerian Nightmare, you know, I mean, one or the other, right? And it's like, watch that guy, because evidently he got to that level utilizing a skill set with the leverage that his body type can help him become to the best of his ability.
Absolutely.
You know, so, yeah, I've just noticed that, because it's like, it's not always like, hey, just go see who's all pro.
No, yeah.
because they're all really good. It's just find the right guy. And,
Absolutely.
So hopefully that gives a lot of our guys out there some insight about this. And, I hope that everything that Coach Taylor has talked about today is demystified to how we develop defensive linemen, how you can take guys and just step off the bus from California and go all conference as a freshman, stuff like that. It's fantastic. And we're fortunate to have Coach Taylor with us, and he's going to help us build a championship defensive unit here at Defiance College. Thanks for coming on the show today, Coach.
Thanks for having me, Coach.
All right. Thank you for joining us on this latest episode of the Swarm and Shoot Football Show. If you're listening to this podcast, make sure to subscribe in iTunes, give us a rating, comment on the show. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the bell in the top corner there so you can get notifications when we release the next show. Feel free to comment below on a specific show, and we'll answer those questions as we need to. If you'd like to step up to the next level and get all kinds of updates, go to our website, swarmandshoot.com, where you'll get up-to-date alerts on all of our podcasts. You'll have the audio on there. There's actually a video player where you can scroll through each and every episode that we have of the podcast from the YouTube version. So you never really have to leave the site. You'll also see some features on various players, our coaching staff bios, all types of things going on in our program, when our golf scramble is, different fundraisers we do, just insights for you that take you to that next level, which is what swarmandshoot.com will do for you. Take a minute and subscribe with your email. When you log on, there'll actually probably be a pop-up about 6 seconds into it, and it gives you a chance to go in, and that will put you into our email database. So every time we update, you get an email knowing that we're basically set to go on the next episode of the podcast or any news that's coming out. Appreciate you supporting the program, and look forward to a wonderful season.